All right. Well, welcome to School Facilities and Operations. We're the number one podcast for school operators, facility managers that work in the K-12 education space. And so our podcasts are kind of two different types. We have one where I talk to other people in a similar position to me, someone out there in the trenches managing school facilities. And then the other type, we have a trade partner on that can really help educate us on what we need to know about the services that they provide. And so today, I have a super exciting episode. I have two representatives from NCRI, which is a disaster recovery business. And they're going to be talking to us about all things about recovering from a disaster in our buildings. So I have Katy Timken and I have Carl Maxson from NCRI. So I just like to get to know you guys a little bit, kind of take turns, maybe tell me a little bit about how you ended up at NCRI and what's going on for you.
Sure. You gonna go first? You've been here longer. Okay. Well, I'm Katy Timken, and I'm business development account manager here at NCRI. And so NCRI, our initials are obviously NCRI, but it stands for National Catastrophe Restoration Incorporated. And so, fun fact: years and years and years ago, it stood for Nick's Carpet-Rite Inc. So same initials, but changed names. And I actually just celebrated 11 years being here at NCRI. So yeah, have had a couple different titles throughout the years, but kind of around the same of marketing, business development, and just learning lots and getting out there and helping our customers. So.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Of course, Carl Maxson, I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at NCRI. I am celebrating my 37th year now here. I originally was a roofing contractor, and the love of my life, my wife, is the daughter of Nick and Pat Easter. And so while I was a contractor, I was asked that, hey, you should come clean carpets with us and see how you like it. And here I am, 37 years later now. So,
fantastic. Well, I'm sure you've seen a lot in 37 years. I think from where most of us sit that listen to this podcast and where I sit every day, the idea of walking into a building in the morning and having water everywhere, or heaven forbid a fire or something like that. I mean, that keeps me awake at night, because we have 350 kids showing up to elementary school at 8 o'clock in the morning. And we're expected to keep our buildings open. I mean, they're almost 24-hour facilities anymore. They're used every night by the community, and then every day. So really from 11 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning, there's no one in the building. But I think any of this kind of disaster stuff really, is something that's always in the back of our mind that could happen at any day. And I think we've seen too, with these severe cold spells, I know we had a pipe freeze, which was really good this year. We only had one. But talk to me a little bit about how companies like yours could support a school district in those kind of situations, or how do we work with you?
Yeah, so I'll just kind of give you a little bit. So we see this a lot, especially with school facilities and other industrial. And it's usually because, pipes, just as you said, we get this cold weather here, this cold snap, and the pipes freeze. And where do the pipes freeze? Well, it's usually an exterior wall that's probably uninsulated. But with schools and such, and churches and things, they require, anytime you have some type of an outdoor gathering, also to have fire suppression. Well, a lot of times the contractors will put that fire suppression in, and guess what's above it? Nothing except for the cold air. And then, so that causes the freeze back inside the building and then busts the pipe. So an incredible amount of preventive maintenance can go a long way, to identify those areas, which, you really don't think about until something like that happens, whether it's an outside block wall that has a plumbing fixture on it or a sink on it or something like that, or an awning outside where people gather, or a patio of some sort. So, those are good places to kind of look. And then one call, and then we can help identify where that pipe is broke, and then help try to get the mess cleaned up and the water removed from the facility, and then try to get some type of evaporation drying process going. So that way, the kiddos can go to school, and then the teachers can operate in their classrooms and that type of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Our goal is to always keep the client operational, and that's like our first, main goal is to keep you guys up and running, and that's something that actually we found is really important for school districts, for clients to have, is to talk to a restoration company before something happens. So you have that relationship, so you have them in your phone, so hey, this is who I'm going to call, this is the protocol that we're going to take when this happens. So then you're not scrambling when the first person who shows up, maybe at 5 a.m., you're like, oh no, what do we do? Like, I still talk about one of our clients actually called me at 2, 3 a.m. It was a fire, but called me and said, and it was the a.m. of Mother's Day several years ago, and said, Katy, my building's on fire. And, and he always says, like, thank goodness you were in my phone. Thank goodness I knew what I was going to do, because he's like, if I was flipping through, the phone book or Google at 3 a.m., 2 a.m. the morning of Mother's Day, we wouldn't have been able to get a crew out there as fast as possible. So definitely have the relationship first, have those conversations, and then even beyond that, a lot of times the restoration company could potentially come out, look at your site, or have discussions of what you might need, what the layout is, what the flooring is, and different things like that. And then exactly what you're going to do, who you're going to call, and you can reiterate that to your staff in case you're gone. They too know the steps to take, and then just have someone on call that has the manpower, that has all the equipment, that can really handle something to have you guys still up and running and the kiddos be able to arrive on time.
Yeah. Okay, you guys said a whole lot there, so let's unpack it a little bit one at a time. So Carl, I want to go to you a little bit. Yeah, like we had a sprinkler head in a vestibule that had a little kind of electric heat on the wall. And yeah, I mean, inside that vestibule, there was cold air that got in, and it was just enough to freeze that head and pop it off. And then we had water running down the hallway. So, I think for my district anyway, and probably a lot of others, like we have the ability to do kind of a 1 or 2 classroom cleanup if it's just water on the floor. So I guess I want to pick your brain a little bit. Like, what if we're doing it ourselves? Like, what are some best practices that we should look at doing there? But also, what are those things that you've seen that maybe people overlook, that because of your experience, you're like, oh, if you don't do this, a couple months from now, you could be in trouble or whatever. Is there anything like that? Like, what could you share about that?
Right. So, like just what we talked about, so preventive maintenance. So, those type of things, especially in an awning, you don't know if the contractor prior to stuffed that thing with insulation or anything, but it's a good idea for maybe one of your guys to look up above the ceiling grid and just have a peek out there to see if maybe there's some rubber insulation wrap around any of those pipes, which goes a long way. That helps, even just that little bit of rubber that you can put on those pipes helps quite a bit, or even stuffing some bad insulation up there, if they see or identify areas like that. And one of the biggest things, and we talk to all of our employees and just several, opening cabinets and doors and things like that goes a long way. You just don't realize how much of this air that's here can penetrate just inside the cabinet. Whether if that cabinet door is closed or wherever it's at, the locker is closed, concrete wall and a north wind, you get, right there, and there's a pipe back there happens to be, those little things right there can break as well. But just opening doors, to some of those areas, especially like, you don't have to do those kind of things all the time, but when it gets in the negative temperatures and we got negative wind chills,
Right.
they can affect us greatly without, just a little bit of preventive maintenance.
And to add
So
to
yeah,
that,
just
I would say, go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, so a little preventative maintenance can go a long ways in helping with this. And we do a lot of that. We have over a weekend where it's super cold, we have guys that come out a couple times a day and just walk through every building. We kind of know where our trouble spots could be. And so they check those and make sure. And I think that's saved us a lot of money in insurance claims just by doing that. So what were you going to say, Katie?
Oh, and I was just saying to add on to that, when you said, sometimes you can handle a couple of schoolrooms with water in it, is just because the water's gone doesn't mean everything is dry and there's not some moisture potentially, behind the cove base, behind the baseboard, got into the wall that is now in the insulation. So that's what I would say is, if you either have a professional come out and check everything, or if you guys have equipment to be able to see. So we have different types of equipment that can penetrate walls, infrared that can tell the temperature differences. So that's important too. Just because the water might be gone off the floor doesn't mean it didn't, creep its water will find a way. It didn't mean it didn't creep its way under the cove base and is now in the insulation in your wall. And in, a few months you might be running into something different that's somehow found and now it's mold. So.
Right.
That's one of the great things about a vendor partner that like us, that with you. Just say, hey, Katie, can you come out and take a look at this wall? We don't know if there's something going on with it, or whatever it is, that kind of thing is how we can help you and help you identify some things as well.
Okay. So you guys actually have some non-destructive testing equipment that you can kind of see what's going on. So you don't have to automatically cut off the bottom 12 inches of the drywall.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so Katie, going back to some of your comments, like, how, like if I'm out here and like you've never called on me, which I doubt, but like if you've never called on me, like how would I go about, if I'm like, this sounds like a really good idea, how would I go about finding a company like yours to partner with? Just like open the phone book, or?
You don't have to find any partner. You can just find us. But but no, when you're searching for who it is, do some research. Make sure they've been around for a while. I guess a little plug, last year we celebrated 50 years. So this year is 51 years we've been in business. Make sure too that, they have their certifications and the education is important to them. So that is something that we really strive to do here at NCRI. We actually have our own NCRI Institute, where across the board, we try to educate our employees. We actually just, was it last month? In January, we flew in someone to teach our employees about fire restoration. And those of us that took the class, and we took a test, and we haven't gotten the results back, but hopefully we'll all be certified, as a fire restoration tech. And that's something, I was able to take the class. Carl was able to take the class. We're not out every single day on site, but then that helps us have that education too, and especially our crews that are out there. So definitely, do research on the company, make sure they're reputable, make sure, ask questions, reach out to someone who works there and say, do you work with insurance? Let's talk about a self-pay, just make sure that they've been in the industry for a while, they're reputable, and feel free to call them, ask questions, call us, ask us questions, do your research, but make sure to, like we said, that they're educated. And another thing would be for like a water loss, for example. A lot of people don't know this, but when you have a water loss, depending on the type of water, depending on how it came in and what it touched along the way, actually affects how we would clean it up and affects how we would tell you and your staff to, if you can be around it, or what our team, like what they need to wear for their PPE. And so that affects it. And then we also have to, how we're going to dry it. There's categories of water and there's classifications of water when it comes in. And so we also have to communicate that to the insurance. So we want someone who is educated, because all of that is going to come into play to make sure that they're cleaning it up correctly.
Okay, that's cool. The one thing I would add is go to their office because I've been to your building and I've toured your building, and we went in the back and I'm like, wow, like the amount of equipment you have, is nothing that we have in our shop, right? Besides like a wet dry vac or whatever, or carpet extractor. But you guys have all kinds of specialized tools that I didn't even know, existed out there. So I think that would go a long ways. Go sit down with them, ask for a tour, see what you see, because it's pretty eye-opening. So what are some of the different types of waters? And I think you said there was classifications of water and something else. Like what?
Yeah, so classifications and then categories. You want to take this?
Go right ahead. I want to hear you say it.
You want to hear me say it?
Awesome.
So categories is going to depend on how the water came in and what it touched. Basically, like how dirty it is how we kind of measure that of what we're going to do, and how our crews need to protect themselves against the water and what contaminants it might have. But also, like I said, we would let you and your staff and the kiddos know. So that's categories. And then classification has to do with how the water came in. Then we look at where that water is and how long it's going to take for it to evaporate. And that's how we, on our end, we look at things, the square footage, how big everything is, and that's how we decide how much equipment you need, how many air movers you need, how many dehumidifiers you need. And so that is the classification of how quickly that water will evaporate in that area.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you actually do you use some math you learned in school?
Yes, there is a calculation for it.
I'm impressed. Okay.
Yes. Listen to your math teacher.
There you go. So, we talked a lot about flood because actually I think that's that's a day-to-day. That kind of happens every year, right? We have something that gets wet. But clearly there's fires and other types of disasters that can happen. But I don't know, tell us a couple of stories about like what kind of things you guys have done, and if there's something really, really crazy, that might be fun to hear too.
Oh my goodness.
You want to take this?
I'm trying to.
I know.
I did well. When we started talking about the freezing and things like that, a lot of people just don't realize that churches and schools and hospitals and things, they have these awnings and porches where people gather that they have to have fire suppression in them, and they just don't realize that those. And every year when it gets cold, it does. We do several churches, we do several schools, and all because of that reason. So whenever it just brought the recollection of all the churches and things that we have completed the drying because of this fire suppression systems freezing and
I would say one thing about fire suppression systems. As an architect, I used to do a lot of hotel work, and they were all dry pipe systems. But we had a couple instances where on a long run of pipe, it had bellied a little bit. And so when there was water sitting in there, even though it was a dry pipe system, well, then that froze and broke the pipe, which then showed water flow, and then the fire suppression system just kicked on. So even if it's a dry system, it can still have residual water in there and then freeze.
It's unbelievable. It's just a little bit of preventive maintenance, and usually it comes from the contractor. That's one of the things. The contractor building the building, somebody should have said, "Oh, hey, there's a wall right here. This is open right here."
Right.
In Texas, they don't expect it, and then it happens.
That's exactly right. And there's a freeze in Houston, and no one can go anywhere. So.
Right.
And I would say to kind of add to that, maybe some of the things we've done that are a little bit, off the beaten path. Obviously, restoration and cleanup, but some of the things. So we actually do a lot of dry ice blasting, which some people don't necessarily know about, which is similar to like power washing or sandblasting, except it's with dry ice. But the good thing about dry ice is you can actually control like how intense it's coming out. If something's, can take that, or if you need to, something's a little more fragile, you can, have it lighter. But then when it comes to dry ice blasting, the only thing you're cleaning up is what you're cleaning off. So because the dry ice just evaporates. So that's something that we can use. And a lot of times that works well, like for fires, we'll use that quite a bit. So then you're not using something, sandblasting, then you're having to pick up the sand or power washing the water to the dry ice. Yes, we do that. Something else is shrink wrap. So that would be in a situation if like a commercial property went through a tornado or a lot of wind damage or storm or something. And basically it's, if you picture those big boats that go down the highway and they're wrapped with the white. So that's basically what this is shrink wrap, and it heat adheres to the structure, and it's a virgin vinyl that doesn't disintegrate in the sun or the elements. So it's very strong and can last for quite a while. And so that would be something that's in between, hey, we had roof damage, but for whatever reason, we can't replace the roof right away, but we need something that's stronger than just tarping. And so we actually do that quite a bit. That's a little bit different too. So yeah, I was just trying to think of some things that are potentially off the beaten path. Or we recently had a fire. There was a commercial client of ours had fire, and we just worked with them through some different ways. I don't know, insurance wanted them to try some different things to try to get rid of the odor. And so we were able to work with everyone, but we actually helped the client out and were able to do some testing that we found there was still like carcinogenic components left over. And so we had to, go further with the cleanup and the demo and all that, but we were able to help the client in the end just to make sure like they felt safe about it and to make sure that everything had been taken care of. But different things, I'd say, our years of experience, we can bring that in and say, hey, we feel like you're not settled about this. Let's go further. Let's do some more testing so that everyone feels comfortable with the end result.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on that, because that's one of the things, Burke, with a vendor partner. One of the things that we work with all the time, every single day, is with insurance, the insurance adjusters, the carriers, and so on. And so if you as a client had a loss, an unforeseen loss or whatever it is, and you want to know the process of when does the adjuster show up? When are they going to show up? What are they going to say? What are they going to do? How are they going to help us? We have that experience every single day. And so we can kind of help walk you through those items of maybe to have some keywords to say to the adjuster when he does arrive, and things like that. So that in our commercial background, especially from repairs and our Class A general, we can kind of help those type of things, and maybe some things you're not thinking about that we can go, hey, did you think about this? Whenever before the insurance company arrives, those type of things. So that's what's great about having a vendor partner, especially with us. We can kind of, you can call us up and go, hey, he said this. What does this mean? Or type of thing. So we can help with that as well.
Yeah, I think that's some good advice because people listen to this all over the country, and so wherever they are, or I know you guys go a lot of places, but I know also people like to support local and when you're working with schools. So those are good things to think about, because I agree. You work with an insurance adjuster, what you say and how you say it can make a big difference. And they tend to not necessarily believe me since I'm the property owner, but someone with certifications and background in it, probably gets a little bit further with them. So those are great points. So do you have some clients that just call you every single time something happens, or is it just kind of like, we can't deal with this, we got to get help in here kind of thing?
Yes. It's great that they can do that, though. I mean, because they'll call us to change the locks or to fix a doorstop. And, obviously we can't do that every day, but,
right.
With them being a partner of ours and a long-time client, we'll do those type of things.
Right.
because they do have the unfortunate large situation that comes up every once in a while as well.
Right.
Once we've built that relationship, I mean, we want to definitely, some of those things aren't our everyday wheelhouse, but we can get them done, or we can find a way. Or, I mean, I think I've done lawn care at a commercial property. I've shoveled snow. There's some things that you wouldn't always think that we've done. Pest control, not our everyday wheelhouse, but once we have that relationship, with a commercial partner, like, we want to help you guys out. And especially if it's something that isn't in our wheelhouse, we know that you need it done. We're going to do everything we can to get it done.
Right.
Yeah. And I will say, before we leave the subject of different things, you got to say, so years ago, but Carl helped in Katrina. Weren't there alligators? That's what I always remember hearing.
We don't need to talk about that one.
Okay, we won't talk about it, but anyhow. So there are, you'd be surprised of things we see. So there's that.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
So I know, I know working with you guys, like, you have the ability to kind of be like, for us to be kind of a first priority. Do you feel like a lot of companies like yours have that kind of ability when they work with their clients?
No, there's only a few, I would say, throughout the country that handle clients like this. They just don't have that partnership, or most companies don't. There's really only a handful throughout the country that kind of do what we do with the clients that we have across the country.
Okay.
A lot of times, and this podcast goes out all over the country. There's some places like Alabama, the school system. They don't know who to call. Maybe they don't even have a carpet guy that's even in the area or whatever to have knowledge of that. But maybe they can reach out to you and go, hey, I need some help with some educating on what's going to happen here. What's my next steps?
Right.
So, yeah, there's not that many that do a lot. There might be a few that do some, but.
Okay. So I would assume if a giant thunderstorm comes through Kansas, you guys get pretty busy.
Yes. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I bet. Which is where I really think it's about having this relationship ahead of time, right? I think that's smart for everybody in my position to be thinking about this, because something could happen that you don't have the manpower to deal with, and to have someone ready to call it makes me sleep easier at night. So
exactly. It's similar, or compare it to like schools. You guys do fire drills, tornado drills. You're doing that because, hey, there's a chance it might happen. And
right.
So that we want everyone to know what they're going to do. And this is a little bit different, but similar. You want to have that relationship so hey, this might happen. We want to know what we're going to do.
Right. What's the biggest kind of thing you typically respond to? Like flooding, fires? Like if you look at your year, like what's the most typical disaster?
Yes, I would say it would both those two, flooding and fire. Flooding probably the number one, and then fire pretty close second.
Mm-hmm.
Third would be mold remediation. Mm-hmm. Always is a thing.
Right.
And you deal with several different individuals in your buildings, and not every individual breathes the same or has the same type of allergy system. Everybody is different. So something is affecting somebody. I would say mold would be the third.
Right. So on that, I guess that is a good question. Do you guys have the ability to come in and do air monitoring and stuff like that to really tell us what's in the air and whether we need to look further into that?
So we do. However, I like to use a third party to do that, and that way the contractor's not identifying the problem, so to speak, and then going to clean it up. You know what I mean? So we like to have a third party set the standards, and then we'll do the work based on the protocol.
Right.
But then we're not the ones telling you, hey, this is your problem. You need to pay us to fix the problem we found. It's someone else saying, this is what we found. And then, yes, and we have partners that we work with all the time. And when we do have clients who call us and say, hey, we need, the air tested, and then we need you guys to fix whatever they find. And so we can handle all of that. It's just we will be getting a third party, and then we'll be following their protocol.
Yeah, because I see that's one thing that I struggle with is, and it spreads, right? So like, we have one staff member that's like, I get congested every time I come into my classroom. And then next thing you know, like the whole hallway's feeling that. And I'm not saying that it's not true, but, we're all human, right? Like I can look at Google and all of a sudden I have 50 diseases I didn't even know I had, right? So,
Yes.
and so I think that's just knowing that I have someone to call that can get me in touch with the right people and get that tested out and have something I can show them that, yeah, there's a problem, we're going to get it taken care of, or it's not our error, so.
We can definitely do stuff like that after hours. We can, if we need to be discreet, like we understand too, the word mold scares people, but we're here to, help take care of that. And so it's a non-issue later on.
Yeah. Everybody always goes to mold, but typically it's not. It takes a lot for mold to grow. Like it's a specific set of circumstances for that to happen. So, what else do you think we should cover off here?
So I just wrote down, as we were talking earlier, I guess before we talking, some of the other things is, I guess, we do help with cleanup after traumas. We do that, or like there is a lot of, maybe not a lot, but more than you think, of vehicle versus buildings that we board up, clean up. People tend to run into that. Another thing is we're a general contractor too. So a company like ours, we can actually do the mitigation, the remediation, and the build back. And so that's something too for everyone to consider, when they're looking at companies, like what's important to them. Do they want someone who could potentially do it all? We don't have to by any means, but we are able to. But then that also helps we cover our, what we can cover is bigger. So then when we have clients who say, hey, I ran into my building, can you board this up? Can you clean that up? That's no problem.
Right.
And also when they call us for the water, we're going to do all that. That's not documented.
Yeah, there's a lot of cars. There's a lot of cars that hit buildings.
There is.
There is.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And I think sometimes, like here, when we show up and there might be an officer there or something, they thought they were pressing on, to reverse, and instead they just went forward.
Yeah.
There's that. But yeah, oh, go ahead.
I think you were going to say some more. You had something else on your list.
Yeah. So document drying, people don't always think about that, but if you have papers or documents that get wet, we actually were HIPAA certified, so we can, on that end of things, when it comes to security, we can do all of that. We do documents for a lot of manufacturers that also have really high standards when it comes to clearance. But something is, when you get papers wet, you need them shredded. The shredding company will not shred wet papers. You actually have to dry them if they're confidential papers, even to have them shredded. So that's something that a lot of people don't think about, is they're like, they're wet, just toss them. And then it's like, oh, but they're confidential. Yeah, you actually have to dry them. And we do that. We do document drying all the time.
Which I think is a great thing for us in schools, particularly with all the student information that's protected. You just can't hand out wet papers to anybody to have them dried. So that's a good point. I hadn't even thought about that. All right. Well, so I want to give you guys a little chance here to tell people how to get a hold of you. We've talked a lot about what you do, which is awesome, because I think that's something good when people are looking for a company like yours to know about. So just give us your little pitch on how to get a hold of you and how to do that and what you can offer.
Okay. Well, thanks. Well, yeah. If you guys have questions, truthfully, you can call me directly. I can give you my info, and you have my info if you want to post it or whatever. But my direct cell, I'll give it to everyone, is 316-218-7331. Call me, go to our website, give us a call. You can ask for Katy, you can ask for Carl. We're here to help. And so our website is NCRI, so like those initials, the letters, NCRI CAT, which is short for catastrophe.com. And yeah, go check out some information about us, but definitely feel free, give us a call. We'd love to talk. We'd love to help you guys out and go from there.
Sounds good. Okay, so I always end these with like 3 quick questions. They're like kind of rapid fire. So I think I'll kind of go back and forth. Maybe we'll make it 4. I'll come up with something on the fly. So Katy, we'll start with you.
Okay.
What time of day do you get your best work done?
Ooh, like maybe. Oh no, like 9 o'clock. I like that.
9 in the morning or at night?
Oh, in the morning, because then had that coffee, had a second coffee, all of that. Like that's like, let's just zone in and like get it done. That's good. Okay, 9 a.m.
Sounds good. Okay, Carl.
What was your answer for me? Oh no.
This one's kind of probably loaded because you're kind of in the family, but like, what would your family say that you do for a living? If they were telling one of their friends, what would they say you did?
They would say I help people.
That's good. That's good. That's awesome. Okay, Katy, I'm back to you.
Okay.
If you could snap your fingers and solve one problem, world problem, business problem, whatever, what would it be?
So many problems. If I could snap my fingers, I think I would. I don't know if it's necessarily a problem, but I feel like a solution to help a lot of things would just be to spread more kindness. Is that an answer? People be more kind. People to like be more patient with each other, give people more grace, like just spread more kindness and be patient.
I thought it was going to be for KU to be K-State in football. But.
Oh, no. I mean, you just got deep. I thought about all the world problems. So, yeah, that's what I would.
Yeah. I think that's great, Katy, because I'll just say, like, today's world, we're so divided. We're so at each other. We're just, like, I was at a stoplight last night, and the lady in front of me wasn't going. And, my daughter's like, honk at her. She's not moving. And I'm like, look, I'm not going to honk at her. And my teenage daughter was like, she's not moving. You need to honk at her. I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to give that lady some grace. Like, so I sit here 5 more minutes or 2 more minutes. And, I passed her later, and she was an older lady, and she didn't want to try to make that left turn. I understand. So I think you're right.
You said that. Yeah. I was thinking about like driving. I was thinking about upcoming election. I was just thinking about everything. I think just be kind to people.
Yeah, be kind. We're all humans.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, last question for you, Carl. So when you take notes, do you use digital or are you a paper guy?
100% digital. I'm known as the iPad guy around here. So I have my iPad with me and I go crazy on it.
Do you use a certain app or do you use just what's built in?
I just use what the notes section in my iPad, and it is filled up. Like we do our weekly meetings, our project manager meetings, our job meetings, our admin staff meeting. I do everything. I take notes for everything, so we can always go back and refer to whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm an iPad guy. Absolutely. I use an app called Obsidian, which is a really cool note-taking app. So
Obsidian.
I'm
gonna look it up.
It takes a little bit to get used to, but it's really cool because you can link notes and all kinds of stuff. So it's really cool. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I learned a lot, and I think everybody else will too. So
pleasure. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Burke.
Thank you, guys.